So intervals, like we said in the video we've done this already, is the distance between notes. And we talked about measuring that in semitones and tones. Okay. Now if I want to get from, for example, C to A, okay, you could work it out in semitones and tones, and you could tell me that it is 4 tones and a semitone in distance. Okay, let's write that one. Okay, but that's a bit mouthy. That's a bit of a mouthful to explain the distance between them. Okay, so we're going to look at other ways to explain distance between notes. Okay, and it's going to be easier to say, but first of all, it's going to be a bit harder to work out. The first thing you need to know is you're going to need to know which of your 2 notes is higher and which is lower. So let's say C is the lower note and A is the higher note. So we want to work out the distance between a low C and a high A. Well, let's draw that on a stave first of all. So let's draw our 5 lines on our stave. Okay, here's our treble clef sign. Okay, remember C is here. Hopefully you know your notes on your treble clef. If not, again, go back to that video. It's one of the early ones. Recap it so you know where each of the different notes are. Here is C. Here is A. Now I could say that's 4 tones in a semitone. But another way of doing it is counting the distance using a stave. So there could be a note there, 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 and then I get to A. Okay, so I've got, from C to A, I've got 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th note away. Okay, because if I had another C, that's the same note, so there's no distance between them. If I had a D here, and that's the 2nd note, okay, so they're 2nd note away. E is my 3rd note away. F, 4th note away. G, 5th note away, and then A is my 6th. Okay, it's very similar to the degrees of your key signature like we just looked at. So I could say that B there is the 7th away. Okay, but you can go further. So let's say I've then got this F up here, and I want to know the distance between that C and that F. Well, I know that's a 7th. So that's C there would be an 8th away. D would be a 9th. E would be a 10th. So that F there is an 11th away. So I could say the distance between this C and that F is an 11th. Okay, and the interval between those 2 notes is an 11th. The interval between C and A there is a 6th. Okay, so there's a bit more to do with intervals. So I'm going to give you a few notes and I want you to tell me the distance between them. Okay, so let's rub this off. Okay. What is the distance between those 2 notes? That's the first one I want you to do. What is the distance between, let's do a bar line there to make it clear, this note and this note. That's number 2. What is the distance between this one this one. And then let's do this one. This one. Let's do one last one. Although we're going off the page, let's make it slightly different. Okay, so work out the intervals between those 5 sets of notes, and you want to write in whether it is a second, a fourth, an eighth, or you could write octave, because they mean the same thing. Okay, so whatever the distance is, we'll write that in for those 5 examples. Now, we have got a few more things to cover when it comes to intervals. So, distances between notes. Let's just stick with the first 7 first of all. So, C to C is same note. There's no distance there. Or you could have a distance of a second, a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or a seventh. And then you get to the octave, which would be C to a C again, the next C up in this case. Now, second can either be a major second or a minor second. And it depends on the distance between the 2 notes. So let's take C and D. Let's switch back to my statement. Let's do it on here. So let's rub this out. 1 second. Right, so about that. So let's take, like I said, C to D. That is a second. But more specifically, is a major second. And the reason is because between C and D, that is a tone. Okay? If I was to do the distance between C and D flat, okay, it's still a second because they're not on the same line, but it is a minor second because the distance between the 2 is a semitone. Okay, so if it's, for the example of a second only, if it's a distance of a tone, it's a major second. If it's a distance of a semitone, it's a minor second. Let's now do thirds. So yeah, let's do thirds. So let's start off again. C. Well, D will be my second, so I'm going to go up to E. Now, the distance between C and E is a third. But in this case, it's a major third, because the distance between C and E is a tone plus another tone. Okay, because the distance between C and E is 2 tones, it's a major third. But if I've got C and E flat, the distance between the 2 there is again a third, but this time a minor third, because the distance is a tone and a semitone. So not quite as large a distance as 2 tones, a tone and semitone. Okay, so that's the difference between a major third and a minor third. And they will sound different. That will sound happier, that will sound sadder. Now I'm going to do fourths and fifths on the same one. Okay, because fourths and fifths are slightly different. You don't get major fourths and minor fourths, and you don't get major fifths and minor fifths. With you guys doing GCSE, it shouldn't be any more complex then seeing something like C, or my fourth is going to be F to there. The distance there is a fourth, and it's what we call a perfect fourth. Now there are other types of fourths. For example, if I was to make that a sharp fourth, it's still a fourth because they're still the same distance from each other on the stave, but it's called something else. But you don't have to worry about that. All you have to worry about is the perfect fourth. If the notes are 2, 3, 4 away, it's a perfect fourth. And again, it's the same with the fifth. So let's take C again, up to G, because if F is my fourth, G is my fifth. The distance there is a fifth. We again call it a perfect fifth. And again, if I was to put a sharp symbol in front of it, it's something slightly different. It's not called perfect fifth at that point, it's something slightly different. Or if I was to put a flat symbol in front of it, again, it's called something slightly different. But that's not going to come up with you guys at GCSE. So you just have to worry about the distance there between the first note, or the root note, and the fourth is a perfect fourth. The distance between the root note and the fifth note is a perfect fifth. And then sixths. Yep, so sixths, let's again go with C. And if G was my fifth, then that means A is going to be my sixth. Okay, so a G to A there, C to A there is a sixth apart. And in this case, we call it a major sixth, because the distance between them is 4 tones and 1 semitone. Now if I was to do a minor sixth, again it's got to be C and it's got to be A on there, but the distance is now only 4 tones, no extra semitone, just 4 tones. So 4 tones up from C is not A, it's A flat. Okay, and it's not going to be G sharp, because although G sharp is also 4 tones away, the reason it's not going to be G sharp is because that's only 2, 3, 4, 5 away on our stave. So that's only a distance of a fifth, that's an interval of a fifth, and we're looking at sixths. So it can't be G sharp, although that's 4 tones away. It's got to be A flat. And in this case, G sharp and A flat do sound like exactly the same note. They are the same note, but it all depends on how you write them out. So in this case, I want to write it out as A flat because I'm looking at a minor sixth. If I was looking at one of those other types of fifths, apart from the perfect fifth, I could then do, C to G sharp, and that would be one of the weird fifths intervals, but we're not looking at that. A sixth of 4 tones, C to A flat, for example, would be a minor sixth. And then finally sevenths. So sevenths, again, let's start off with C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It would be the note B. That's a seventh. And that is a major seventh. Okay, it's a major seventh because it's 5 tones and 1 semitone. Okay, if I was to do a minor seventh, starting on C, that would only go up 5 tones. So it's still got to be on B, and 5 tones up from C gets me to B flat. Again, not A sharp, because that's only a sixth away from C to A sharp. That's a sixth, whereas C to B flat is a seventh. And again, although B flat and A sharp are the same note and sound exactly the same, we're looking at distance between the two. If I want to know a minor seventh, I don't go upper sixth, I go upper seventh, okay, to B flat. Now, we're going to do some exercises now. What I want you to do is I want you to draw out basically this grid that I've got down the bottom where I've put all my different notes: A sharp, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D flat, D, D sharp, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G flat, G, G sharp, A flat. Just the letter names first of all, okay? Just draw it out exactly like I've done. So A sharp and B flat, one on top of the other. Okay, C sharp and D flat, one on top of the other. Okay, and then do like a grid like I've done and separate them out with lines and indicate that there is a semitone distance between them all. Okay, and then if you can do like I've done if you want to, where you indicate that a tone is 2 semitones. Okay, and then I also want you to draw out a stave with 5 lines on. Okay, because I'm going to give you 2 notes. The first note is always going to be the lowest note. The second note is always going to be the highest note. I want you to first of all draw those 2 notes on the stave, and then secondly, right underneath it, what is that interval? So for example, if I said I want you to draw E and F, you draw E and F. Okay, but I also want you to tell me the interval. Now I know that that's a second, because if that's the first, that's the second. So they're a second. But I also want to know, is it a major second or a minor second? And this is where you probably have to rewind to earlier in the video when I was going through each of the different examples of major seconds and minor seconds and major thirds and minor thirds, and telling you the distance in semitones and tones. So I know that from E to F, a distance of 1 semitone makes it a minor second. If I'd given you the 2 notes of E and F sharp, again, you draw them onto your stave. And you'll be able to tell me again that it is a second. But from E to F sharp is not a semitone, it is 2 semitones, it's a tone. So that would make that a major second. Okay, or if I gave you something really wacky like E to C sharp, let's say. So again, you draw it on the stave, and you've got to work out, so E is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know it's a sixth. I've then got to work out what kind of sixth it is. So I'd go back to earlier on in the video, okay, and work out that E to C sharp is a distance of, well, there's E, there's C sharp, but I'm not going to go backwards, I'm going to go this way. So I've got a tone, a second tone, I've got a third tone, a fourth tone, and then a semitone. So I've got 4 tones in a semitone, and 4 tones in a semitone, when it's a sixth, is equal to a major sixth. So if you're ever not sure, revisit the early parts of the video, okay? As soon as you've drawn them on, you should be able to work out what the distance is, whether it's a second, or a sixth, or a seventh, or a third, or whatever it is. And then you've got to go back to earlier in the video to work out, is it a major version of that or a minor version of that? Okay, so I'm going to flip over and I'm going to give you several examples. Example 1. What is the distance between C? Let's not do C, we've just done all these examples in C. Let's do something different. D to C. So D is the lower note, C is going to be the higher note, so you're going to draw D lower down on the stave than you are C. Second example, let's do F sharp to A. Let's do G to E. Let's do F to B flat. Let's do a fifth one. Let's do C sharp. Let's do a sixth one. Let's do, what haven't I done yet? Let's do G sharp to G sharp to, let's go with F. Okay, those are 6 examples I want you to do. So remember, the first note is always going to be lower, the second note is always going to be higher. Okay, count the distance. Remember, start, that is going to be number 1, and then you count up until you get to C, whatever note that is. You write it down, and then you've got to work out, is it a major version or a minor version, or maybe even a perfect version, if there's any perfect fourths or fifths in there. Okay, so draw it out on a stave, just like I've done, and then tell me what the interval is there. Draw out this grid as well, that will come in handy. Okay, and that's it, and there'll be another theory video next week.